So I've had this opportunity. I didn't ask permission. Avery, you're in the room. It's not really about you, but it's about basketball. I forgot. So I've had this joy of coaching sports. I've coached sports longer than I've known Jesus, really, or longer than I've been a pastor, not longer than I've known Jesus, but quite a few parallels when it comes to coaching and pastoring. This year, it's been a pretty good year. I coach at Bellingham High School. We're 7-6, right? 7-6, I think so. And we had a shortage of girls this year. We only had like 16 girls come out for basketball, which was far less than we had hoped. We've even been dealing with some eligibility stuff, some girls skipping classes and having to miss practice, and there's always issues of grades and things like that. And even after practice, this couple days ago, one of the girls came up and was like, hey, you know, we need some accountability. We make sure that the girls make it to practice and that we're practicing together. And that's kind of like part of being a team. Like when you're a part of a team, there's some accountability, there's some opportunity to hold each other to a higher standard and call each other to another level. But despite all that, we had a great week. See, a couple weeks ago, we played a team, and it ended up being a crazy game. We were down most the whole game, playing from behind the whole game. We battled back, and with 10 seconds left, we tied the game up. And man, we're a defensive team, so we thought we'd shut them down for 10 seconds. Now, lo and behold, in those 10 seconds, we gave up 2 open layups to this team. They missed them both. Thank God. He was obviously on my side, because that's how that works. And we went into overtime, right? And in this game specifically, there was a girl on the other team. She had 21 points through 3 quarters. Crazy. I mean, she was jacking up shots and making them. And after the third quarter, we decided to put Avery on her, my daughter, and she was guarding what the other team, what we thought the other team's best girl was. And that girl in the fourth quarter in overtime did not even score a point. And we ended up winning by 6 in overtime. So I think it was a 4-minute overtime. And we were clicking for that overtime period. Now, fast forward to just this last week. We had a rematch against this same team. We put Avery on that girl from the very beginning. That girl only scored 5 points the whole game. But we were just clicking as a team this entire time. Avery had her season high in points. Everybody but one girl on our team scored. And we ended up in the third quarter, I believe, third or start of the fourth, we were up by 40 points against this team. 2 weeks' time difference, right? And so we ended up winning by 36 in regular time, no overtime for that game. And it was a huge team effort when they all played a part. Everybody had a role. We took care of it. And I share that with you this morning. One, I just got to get a dad brag in there. But basketball is a team sport. And it was very evident that we were just clicking on all cylinders when it came to playing that second rematch game against this team. And we played very well together. We scored in the post. We scored, if you're a basketball fan at all. I've shied away from using as many sports analogies this year, but we scored in the post. We were hitting 3-pointers. It was just a great game. But I say that this morning because it brought, as I was planning this message, I was planning this idea where we've been in this new year now for a couple weeks, and I'm just kind of sharing some foundational stuff for the new year, like things I hope that we adapt when we head into 2026. But following Jesus is a team sport. Following Jesus is a team sport. If you haven't picked up on it yet, we're going to talk about that this morning. We're going to talk about team. We're going to talk about being a part of a group. Let's call it talking about being the people of God. On Christmas Eve, if you were here, I introduced this idea of giving me a year. Give me a year of give the church, give Jesus a year of your life. And that if you give Jesus a year of your life, and being about the purpose of God and gathering with the people of God, if you give Jesus a year of your life, and not only your life, the lives around you will forever be changed. I firmly believe that 100%. That if we prioritize the purpose of God and gathering with the people of God and being about God's purpose in our life, it will not only change your life, it will change lives around you. Promise that. As the girls in the basketball team make fun of me because I end a lot of my encouragement with period. Like, if you just do that, period, and they make fun of me for it, and it's fine. But if you missed Christmas Eve and you need that reminder, it's just being about the purposes and gathering with the people of God. And as we kind of walk into the message today, I want to, kind of get ahead of myself, but like, Jesus didn't die for us to just hang out on Sunday mornings. We'll get into that in a little bit, but if we think about it, and kind of shifting gears a little bit as we'll get back to this, but I hate to give credit to COVID, but COVID showed us how important it is to be in relationship and gathering with people, being with people in this team, even this team mentality of being relational and connecting, and our design about being connecting and being relational. And so, and I don't know about you, but I thought for sure that, and we see this in the workforce too, a lot of workforces pushed out into the homes, and people moved in from working in an office building to working from home and all that kind of stuff. Now we see that actually the majority of companies have said, actually, that's not the best fit, right? Like, they're moving back into the environment of being in a group together and being in a building together and being together, pushing towards that same purpose and goals and holding each other accountable and all that kind of stuff. That's been the shift that's come back now when it comes to the workforce, but definitely when it comes to our personal lives and our relationships. I don't know about you, but I've been reminded about how important it was. And I was listening to a message that a pastor preached about this kind of idea, and he brought up a detail that I had to then go check out. So in 2023, the Surgeon General of the United States, and the Surgeon General, if you don't know, it's considered to be one of the top doctors. We know the greatest physician ourselves, but this top doctor he provides guidance to improve the public health, issuing alerts in critical health issues in our country, and leading the U.S. Public Health Service Commission. And he issued a warning in 2023 about loneliness and isolation. And as I heard this pastor preach about this, I had to go investigate. I had to go hunt that down because I know for a fact sometimes we tell first person, second person stories, and I want to track down the source so I can see it. So this warning was a 68-page warning that the Surgeon General issued. There was 325 references to different texts and magazines and health magazines and journals, and I can send it to you if you want to read it. It was actually kind of interesting to read about the Surgeon General of the United States issuing this warning about loneliness and isolation. And he wrote about this, given the profound consequences of loneliness and isolation, he said this: if we fail to address this, we will pay an ever-increasing price in the form of our individual and collective health and well-being. And we will continue to splinter and divide until we can no longer stand as a community or a country. I think we might be there. I don't know. Not we, but as a whole. And he said, this Murthy was his last name, says that oftentimes we feel like I have to shoulder all of life's burdens by myself, or if I were to disappear tomorrow, no one else would even notice. He said, if not addressed, there's an increased risk of premature death as much, and get this, I grew up with two parents that smoked, because that was the cool thing, and it was cool even when I was up until, even 10 or 15 years after I graduated high school. But it's an equivalent as to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. This is in the report that he wrote, right? That he states that we must get more connected. He likens it to lonely and isolation. He likens it to the epidemic of tobacco, obesity, and addictions in our lives. That instead of coming together and taking great challenges before us, we will further retreat into our corners of being angry, sick, and alone. And I believe, I don't know about you, but I believe I can relate to this at times. Maybe not all the time, but oftentimes I can relate to this angry, sick, isolation, separation, this illness. Heather and I watched Netflix, kind of like, I'm really into like that true crime, true story drama stuff. And we watched this, I think it was like Evil Influencer or whatever. But this lady who was interjecting into marriages and families and stuff, she used loneliness and isolation to completely transform, or not transform, it would be to completely brainwash, to completely change, to completely manipulate the minds of the people that she was working with. She deemed it as something positive. Ultimately, don't watch it if you can't handle child abusive situations, because that was part of it too, abusing children with these same ways of isolation and loneliness. But on the heels of reading what the Surgeon General said and then seeing what she was using, I was like, man, that is so true. How much that can control us and change us. And for us, I couldn't be more sure that our design as people is to be with each other. But not only that, a life that is centered and focused around God, around our Creator. And this Sunday morning, or Sunday mornings in general, I would say don't necessarily count as that. As you often hear me say, like all of you are staring at me right now, and I get to talk at you as one person, and then other than that, you see the backs of the heads of everybody else that's in front of you, right? And so that's not necessarily interactions. Now, we're pretty good at talking during our greeting time and getting coffee before church if you come early. No, that's a positive of coming early. You get to hang out with some of your friends. So those of you that are constantly showing up late, you can come early. We're here. Right? And you can hang out afterwards, stack chairs with us, and hang out as well. Anyways, plug with that. But that is our design, and to be honest, it's outside of Sunday morning. I challenge you, or I actually present the idea to you, or the question to you, outside of Sunday morning, where are you gathering with the people of God? Like in a strategic manner where you're actually talking about the things of God for you and for your life and for your families and for your kids. Remember, my challenge at Christmas Eve heading into New Year's to be about the purposes of God and gathering with the people of God. And why does that matter? Why doesn't it matter is the question. And if we look at it from the sense, if you've had children and you've raised children, oftentimes as they start to become of age to make some of their own. I was just having a conversation with my buddy just a second ago about like friends and hanging out with friends and being a part of friends groups. Like you look at the friends that your kids hang out with, and you want them to surround themselves with good company, right? And I would say that's the importance of us gathering together, or people of God who know the purposes of God, who are headed in the same direction, to gather with each other outside of Sunday morning, but that we would actually be a company of people that would encourage and build up and do the things of God. And so my question on the heels of that is that what you want? Not do you want to gather with cool people that know Jesus, but like, do you actually want God's purpose in your life right now where you sit? Above everything else, right? I would argue, and hopefully not argue too hard, that that is the hope that we have. And that is the most important things in our lives, that you and I, that we sit under the grace of God together. That we're all in the process of grace-filled salvation in Christ and Him alone. That we're all in process, but that we're in the process of doing that together and pursuing God together, and then present, is that what you want? Does God's grace and His process in your life matter that much? Speaking of our kids, and those of you that, again, have raised kids, a good measure of this situation is if that is what you desire more than anything else for your kids, that's probably what you desire in your life. But if you find yourself desiring, different things, success on the sports field more than whether following Jesus, good grades more than following after Jesus with zeal and passion, worshiping Him, aligning their life, if that isn't above all of those things in what you desire for your kids, it's probably not the most important thing in your life. And much like with our children, the same is true for our lives as well. So much more than just attending church. Attending church is kind of like the bare minimum, the impoverished Christianity. God's design and Jesus' life isn't the design for us to try to pull off this life by hitting up the dance barn once or twice a month, right? In our pursuit of Him. That's where we put our, pursuit is those once or twice a month hanging out in the dance barn. It's shared life more than it is, I don't have my bulletin, more than it is church events, right? A lot of those things aren't events. They're actually those times that we get together and discuss things about Jesus, but we put on events too, and those are fun as well. But it's shared life, not Christmas or Christian events. Is that important to you? Is it a priority in your life? Do you give it priority in your life? Do you go after that? Do you desire that in your life? Ephesians 2:20 says, built on the foundation of the apostles and the prophets, Christ Jesus Himself being the cornerstone. Do you want to build? Cornerstone is this term used in building of that time, that they would have a giant stone that they would then plumb line the rest of the building off of. And that stone would level and create the initial foundation for that building. And so for us in our lives, nothing short of that for Jesus is what God's design for us is. We are building, we are all of us, everybody in this room are building our life on something, right? So my question is what you're building your life on pointing, is it Jesus? Is it pointing to Jesus? Is it His glory in your life? Or is it something else? If you want to measure it, and if you've been around church, I've used this analogy numerous times. If you want to measure where your priorities are, often the cliche way to measure that is show me your checkbook and your calendar. Now, we don't have checkbooks anymore. How many of you actually have a checkbook still? Oh, okay, like a handful. You got that one bill that you have to pay with a check, and you're like, oh, I got to write it out again, right? Nowadays, you even just go online and you click write a check, and your bank writes a check for you, right? But show me your checkbook and your calendar, and that's where, but for me, that's kind of event-based, right? And so for us, maybe a better way, quite honestly, to measure some of that, a new way to measure it. And I heard same sermon from earlier, this pastor say this, is show me your 3 closest friends. Show me your 3 closest friends, and whatever they're about in their life, that's what's important to you, right? Show me your 3 closest friends, and I'll show you what is important to you. And then you can oftentimes even say that if, I got 4 kids, I got 5 kids, like I don't have friends anymore, like I'm just raising my kid, like that leads back to that analogy of isolation and loneliness. You become who you put in an influential person in your life. I often talk about your sphere of influence, the people you influence in your life. It's reversed back as well for those that influence us in our lives. Proverbs 22, verse 24 through 25 says, "Make no friendship with a man given to anger, nor with a wrathful man, lest you learn his ways and entangle yourself in the snare." Now, I know a lot of you probably don't struggle with anger like I do, but you can put anything in that place if you want to. You can put greed, selfishness, deceit, right? You can put addiction and a lot of different things in that place. Or you can put love and joy and peace and patience and self-control. And again, not that as Christians, as we surround ourselves with Christians, we surround ourselves with people that have everything figured out. Not at all, right? I'm the chief of messing up often, probably too often than I should as your pastor, but there's the idea of approaching those things in a different manner. Approaching those things as not something that we actually actively go after. That there is a growth in understanding as well as encouragement and strengthening and building up, as we'll talk about here in a second. And there's the essence of the presence of God and His Spirit. And we talked about that last week. We talked about the Spirit of God and His presence in our lives. And so my question for you as you look at the people that you surrounded with, would you give the depth of influence and value to people in your life, your 3 closest friends who don't love the Lord, who aren't interested in your positive growth, in your development in life, your zeal and passion for following Jesus, whether it's on fire or it's just smoldering a little bit and you stoke it up? Like, would you surround yourself with the people who quite honestly don't want anything to do with that, would say, not about the Jesus thing, calm down a little bit, like, let's talk about something different? Or would you surround yourself with the people that be like, you know what? Let's do this. Let's do this together. Let's build each other up. Let's work through what you're going through. Let's be in tune with what the truth says about what you're dealing with, what I've dealt with, my experience, and what I've got going on, and how God has worked in my life. Let's be about that. And if you don't have that in your life, this is what I was saying earlier about our different groups and opportunities to meet. If you don't have that in your life, you can't find that in your life. We parallel back again to that warning that the Surgeon General said. Like, I can't imagine the government aligning, but I read that and I was actually like, man, I will preach a little bit. There was no scripture in there at all, but I was like, man, like, this is God's design. Somebody wrote this that, maybe, I investigated a little bit, not necessarily a believer, but some of the principles in there were spot on. If you don't have that in your life, church, be it, do it, go after it. I would spend a disproportionate amount of energy and time about finding that for you because of how much I believe that to be God's design for our life. All throughout Scripture, love one another in 1 Peter and 1 John, honor one another in Romans 12, hospitality towards one another without grumbling in 1 Peter. Be at peace with one another, be kind with one another, forgive one another, and confess to one another. Woo. Like that takes a little bit more than, hey, let's hang out, right? Encourage one another, pray for one another, teach and instruct one another, build one another up, bear one another's burdens. How many of you have felt burdened this week a little bit? Everybody's lying, right? We all feel it a little bit, especially post-Christmas, right? Heading into the new year and the promises, the hopes that have already been squandered, right? Serve one another. Jesus in you, Jesus in me, like, sure, our eternity and salvation is something that I'm going to work out with Jesus one-on-one. But I would say everything else is not about you. Right? You are part of it, not the point of it. Does that make sense? Part of it, not the point of it. And it's God's design for us to do this together. 1 Corinthians 12 talks about the different body parts of the body and how we all play a different role. You guys are all glad I checked in the second song. I was like, did I turn off my mic? Yeah, I turned off my mic, right? You don't want me singing, right? But we all play a different role in this thing called following Jesus and being the capital C church and hopefully more than just the part we play on a Sunday morning. We had half dozen boys setting up chairs today, right? Like that's a fun thing for them to do, but they're all downstairs now. You saw them all. They're sitting there, those two tables, right? They're downstairs learning about Jesus now. Sure, it's about setting up the chairs, but it's more about like doing this together. Right? We're built together into a house for the Lord. Ephesians 2:22. And in him you are to be built together to become a dwelling in which God lives by his Spirit. When we do this together, kind to one another, when we work it out to forgive and to go after forgiveness, I think about that in my earthly relationships and how much I bank on God's forgiveness in my life, but I think, man, my relationships on this earth, and maybe you can relate to this or not, are too fickle to actually walk through true forgiveness for wrongs that might have been done. Oftentimes, I don't know about you, but you've had friends that have wronged you, and you're no longer sitting next to them, right? Either you've chose or they've chose to separate. Be like, that's too much work for me, right? But in our relationship with Christ and the forgiveness that he's given us, and then in that being the center or the cornerstone of that, in this room, we can adapt and step into that same level of forgiveness and grow in our relationships. And then that's what we hand off into a world that doesn't get forgiven, doesn't get I'm sorry. Like we don't do that. We don't do I'm sorry. Right? It's too deep or there's too much wrapped up in that. Are the people in your life is there teaching and instruction? Is there the Christian word discipling, where we're all pursuing Christ together, maybe getting to know him a little bit more? And as we take those steps, that's what we call discipleship. Jesus had disciples that followed him around, and they learned from him. We're not like, you guys aren't all my disciples, and you follow me around when I walk, but we do that with each other. I'm discipled as much as I sit next to, talk about here in a second, as I sit next to people in my life who have come to be like, oh, I want to get together with my pastor and talk about something. No, it's like I get as much out of that as they get, probably even more. But that disciple and that, are the friends in your life willing to pray for you? Like, are they willing to go to the ultimate authority over the universe on your behalf? I want those people in my life, that they would petition the Almighty on my behalf. Are those part of your group of people that you give the most influence to? I've been in this avenue of watching hunting videos. I've never hunted in my life. Like, I've always been like, well, that'll be really fun. And like, like a Nerf gun is it. Like, is all I got, right? But I've been watching these hunting videos, and a lot of them are on National Geographic or Animal Planet, or, well, not the hunting videos there. They care about animals over there. But I'm watching these videos, and I'm reminded of, like, when animals hunt in the wild, do they get those of the strongest, the ones that are surrounded by the group of the herd, right? No. They pick off the ones that are on the fringe, right? The ones that have kind of wandered off and off on their own, and then all of a sudden they're not on their own anymore. They're not even anymore, right? They don't go after the strongest, the people that are surrounded in the herd. Like, they pick off the weakest. Do you think, and this isn't a downplay on the people that you have in your life, because quite honestly, as one of my giftings being evangelism, and in my life, I have plenty of friendships with people who are far from God. But do you not think that the enemy would use those that are far from God to pull you away from God? That makes total sense. And I've been hammering this, the flip side of that, I've been hammering this idea home so much in the last handful of weeks is this idea of you can't do this alone. As soon as I say to myself, I got this, I've got it handled, like, that's when the tornado goes off in my life, right? And not only as it relates to my relationship with Jesus, it also actually relates to just my relationships in life. When I get all else isolated out by myself, that's when I'm going to get picked off. And quite frankly, it couldn't be any more opposite of what the gospel message is. Right? The good news of Jesus coming to be with his people, to restore right relationship with the Father, to be one in the Spirit. How many of you have the most sin, desire, and temptation and struggle on Sunday mornings? Right? Not the kid. One person. There's always one, right? Not the case. On Sunday morning, we're focused. Even if what I say doesn't make any sense and I fumbled around and I didn't communicate. We're here. We're here. We're focused. We're singing. We're about it, right? Thursday mornings for me is another avenue of that. Thursday mornings, I get together with a group of guys, and as I set up coffee with my buddy Josh, and then as the 8 or 9 other guys show up, like, for those hour and a half, 2 hours of time, like, I'm not tempted. I'm not, like, venturing off by myself, right? Lunches over tacos on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday, whenever I can, talking about Jesus. Like, I'm not tempted during those times. Monday mornings, I got, early morning, I got 3 or 4 meetings with different pastors and people within my connection group of making this all happen. I'm not tempted during those times. But Monday nights, isolated and lonely after I beat myself up on a Sunday and I separated myself because I'm tired. kind of hungry. It's 11, I shouldn't eat again, right? Those are the times where I'm like, oh, I'm by myself. I'm going to get picked off. We need people around us. God's people pushing in the same direction. There's nothing more that the enemy would want for you in 2026 than for you to get out on your own. I don't need church. I mean, like the same thing every week. We get together, we sing 3 songs, 4 songs. God talks at me, have some coffee that's marginal at best, and I go home, right? Watch football. Football's today, right? There's nothing more the enemy wants than for you to get out on your own. Think you don't need this. You don't need Jesus. You've got it handled. You're kind of a big deal. You've accomplished a lot in your life. Ride that. There's a team mentality in this. There's power in gathering together, shoulder to shoulder with people. I always talk about this about our kids. Our kids, they, I include the kids that are choosing to be homeschooled and stuff like that, but my kids, the way they were raised, they brushed shoulders with everybody they went to church at Geneva Elementary. And then at Colshan Middle School, Charlotte knows people because she goes to youth group and she hangs out here that she can look and see Brinley in the hallways and be like, man, she loves Jesus. She's like me. We're following after Jesus. And there's power in just being in that encouraging team mentality. There's a purpose in being together in church. I'm so serious about this. The purposes of God and gathering with the people of God. There is not another more, there I go, double negative, minus, add. There is not another group in your life that is more important than this group right here. If this is your place, if you think this is your place, CTK Sudden Valley, the barn, that with a small flame might just go up, right? But this place, if this is your place, this is the most important group of people in your life. And then some other Christians that are following after God and ensure other people that then your purpose is Jesus first, hang out with them and love them really well. Listen to them. They can influence you, you can influence them, but Jesus has the most influence. That equation. So I plead for you, I challenge you, I ask for you to consider this year purposes of God. We'll talk about the purposes of God every single week. Make it important to be about gathering with the people of God. And I tell you what, that will forever change your life and the life of somebody sitting next to you and the life of somebody who is yet to come. That's what we're about. I love this group of people. I love where we're at right now, but I would like more chairs, more people knowing who Jesus is. There's a lot, 2, 4, 5, 10, 20, another front row. Nobody sits front row over here. We got plenty of room. Don't want a new family in the front row, though. Anyways, but will you consider that? The purposes of God and gathering with the people of God. Will you pray with me? Ben, you want to come up? Lord, I thank you that this thing is all your plan. I didn't know what a yes to you, Lord, was 15 years ago. But I'm so glad you didn't take my no. And so for us in this room, as we continue to press in and say yes to you, Lord, may you show us, may you open doors, may you bring people into our lives that are probably already here in such a way that we would be all about your purpose and following you together in our lives. Or may we sit together under your grace, every single one of us in process in our own lives, figuring things out, but in process of following you more. And as we figure this thing out, our life together, life with you, may you use each other in your spirit to move in your people. To be about what you're about, Lord. To desire what you desire in our life. So now, as we close with some worship, may that be the gesture that we take to put you first above everything in our lives. As we sing you praise for what you've done and what you continue to do. Pray this in your name.